Welcome to the Urban Agorist podcast, episode number 2. My name is James, and today I am joined by Jose Galison from the Liberty Movement Facebook group and YouTube channel. You can find today's show notes at urbanagorist.com/2. And now let's get into it. Jose, why don't you introduce yourself for the folks?
Hey, I'm Jose Galison. I think probably most people know me for. I'm just kind of a normal guy, but for the most part, what you guys might know me for, if at all, is for the Liberty Movement, which I was one of the original 3 admins and that started it. I wouldn't consider myself the founder, but I was like one of the OG 3. You know, if it was like if this was the Justice League, it'd be Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. I mean, you can take your pick which one I am. You know, we were kind of the original 3, and then we've added a couple more as time has gone on. That's kind of where we're at. I'm sure we'll go more into that, but it's just introduction. That's who I am. As we were talking before, Jose Galison's a pseudonym. So, kind of pulling a, free man beyond the wall kind of thing, I'm not quite ready to completely go. Obviously, if you take a little bit of time, I'm sure you can figure out who I am. But, I kind of like have that adding level of anonymity. So it's actually funny. It started as because it was just my main account kept getting blocked. And then so I made a new one in alt and it just changed the name. And then eventually it just so happened I started doing this. And I was like, well, it kind of works out. I might as well keep it this way. I considered going back to my main one and just using my real name, but it's like, nah. I don't know. There's something nice. I know it kind of lets me go a little more hard, I guess, in a way.
All right. So the Liberty Movement group, I started in it just a couple of weeks after it started, I think, and it has skyrocketed since then. What is it that you guys have done to make it so big and so peaceful?
We've definitely had our hurdles. Oh, sorry. I'll let you. I don't know if you had more.
No, it's fine. It's just that the group's not as contentious as a lot of the groups that I've been in. Obviously there's some arguing, but it seems to be fairly civil, and some of the riffraff has kind of been kept out.
That's by design. You kind of have to work that way. I know a lot of people get mad about this, and the few issues we've had have been a function of this. But we're generally we're definitely, if you got the grid spectrum, we're way at the bottom, pretty much mostly to the right. Obviously we pretty much, as long as you're on the bottom and you're not trying to put violence to nobody, on the spectrum or whatever, the grid, not the just straight line, as long as you're cool with not doing violence, we're cool with you being there. But most of us are that far bottom right. So we're very much private property. So we treat it like private property.
You're talking about the political compass quadrant.
Yeah, I was having a brain fart. But my point being, we're very hip to private property. We have booted people before. We've put posts. Make it so that we have to approve posts for certain people that are troublemakers. We try to be fair and not be like tyrants, but at the end of the day, it's completely consensual. We're not forcing anyone to be there. It's basically private property rules apply, and we see no issue with that. And I think it's pretty consistent with libertarian principles.
I've noticed that in a few of the groups that I'm in, I don't know if the Liberty Movement's one of them, but every so often, when I try to post something, it will tell me that it's waiting a moderator's approval. Is that just something that Facebook's doing, or do you know?
I have quite a bit of experience as I told you before about getting I'm in brain fart, getting zucked essentially. Yeah. And I've been zucked quite a few times, so I'm quite experienced with it. That can happen to a group just from them getting getting zucked too much essentially. But it also can be, that is an admin. In most groups, that is like an admin function you can use where you can have the option to. And I like that a lot as an admin because, I don't want to, if I can help it, I don't want to boot somebody for the group. I would rather just be like, put that, like if they don't listen enough times. If it's someone who's being flagrant, causing problems, completely breaking the rules, because we have rules that are set in the group. But like for the most part, if it's just like if they're a constant offender and it's like, but it's kind of like mild stuff, I'll usually go to that as opposed to like a straight boot, So but that is if some groups, it either means the group has had a lot of issues or you have been an issue. Yeah, that's what it means
for sure.
So
I've noticed that there's a few groups that aren't behind paywalls, and this is one of them where the discourse remains pretty good, pretty peaceful and constructive. I think a lot of that seems to be the sort of anti-politics mentality of the leadership in the group.
Non-politics. That's what we try. That's our big thing.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about that. What does it mean to be non-political, but also libertarian in nature?
Well, here, I guess we kind of got to go into like what the idea was when it founded. Kieran came to me, Kieran Gunn, who I would consider to be the founder, came to me and Derek Walker and kind of pitched us an idea. And it was kind of like, what do you think of this? And the idea being that like, we wanted something cultural and we wanted some sort of big tent movement, essentially without sacrificing principles. And we kind of came to the conclusion the only way to really do that with libertarians is to throw out the politics.
Yeah.
And I mean, and we have found ways to pitch that because we have like 5 admins, and not all of us are like non-voting anarchists. Our beliefs span like, you know, we have people who believe in voting. We have people who believe in the non-voting or not non. We believe in non-voting. Like I'm a non-voting anarchist. I'm an agorist. That's what I would consider myself if someone asked. But, you know, we think even if you do buy into the whole political, you know, shebang, that like that would be one sliver of the discourse, and there's this whole other part of the pie that you're kind of missing out on. And it's like you can do both. Like if you want to be in the Mises Caucus or whatever, and you also want to be in our group, cool. You know, just don't bring in your you know, don't come in stumping for Mama Joe, you know, or whatever. You know, like that's cool. You can do your thing, but like so that was our thing. We think if you throw out the politics, it can kind of quell a lot of those issues. It's not to say not to have those conversations. Just here is a spot where we're kind of trying to, you know, have other conversations aside from the politics side of things. Because I mean, that's one thing a lot of people just struggle with. But like libertarian philosophy doesn't necessarily have to be political at all. I mean, you're the Urban Agorist, so I'd assume you kind of are on track with that as well. I mean, usually agorists would probably be what we would consider like apolitical, which I guess I would kind of consider myself apolitical. Like I see non-political as like neutral or just disregarding it in general.
Yeah, you know, the way I kind of see it, like, I mean, if you're asking how the government can solve your problems, then your problems probably are so far from home that they're not really problems, you know? Yeah. Or they're a problem that you can solve yourself between you and your friends and your community. So other than like electoral politics, you talked about bringing up Mama Joe, who, you know, I mean, Joe Jorgensen is probably the best candidate the Libertarian Party's had in 20 years, which is saying a lot. But what else would you consider out of bounds as far as politics goes? I mean, policy proposals and that kind of thing, I would assume, is probably not something that you'd want people discussing in the group.
Basically, I mean, I feel like you kind of get into murky territory a little bit. Okay. I mean, it's way more clear cut when you come in saying we need to vote Trump in, or we need to vote Mama Joe, or you know, we need to get Trump out of office, or even, you know, the agorists and a lot of the non-voting anarchists are like, look at you fucking sheep with your voting. You know, that we also do that too. I mean, don't get me wrong, it pains me every time I have to like remove one of those posts or whatever, because it's like, I mean, I kind of agree with you.
Yeah, but you're calling people names and stuff. If you're gonna bring that up, at least tell them why. I mean, you don't have to call people sheep, you know.
And that's where the apolitical comes in too, where it's just like you're kind of, I guess, shaming people for, you know, engaging in politics, which we're trying to avoid that. Just avoid the politics. Essentially, just take politics and that, because I think see that as one small sliver of liberty, you know, like for example, I think I had just listened to the audiobook for Edward Bernays' Propaganda, like right around the time that I joined the group and, you know, or became one of the admins. And like, there was a lot of stuff there that kind of appealed to me and also I saw a lot of mirrors between like Black Lives Matter and how like, there's that idea of how, you know, we distinguish between the political or the organization of Black Lives Matter and then the movement of Black Lives Matter. And I just like, it kind of clicked when we were like the liberty movement. It's like, why can't you play on that? Like, don't get me wrong, I have my qualms with BLM, but it's like, that kind of ties into the whole Edward Bernays propaganda thing, which it's like, propaganda isn't necessarily immoral. It's more about like how you use it, you know, and if you're being, you know, if you're lying to people, that's one thing. It's more about marketing, really. Yeah. But, you know, like the idea being like, that's one thing like BLM has going for them, is that where they're in this weird, like in between where it's like, you can say Black Lives Matter and you're like, oh, do you just mean that like you think Black people should have rights? Or do you mean this one super duper like commie organization? You know what I mean? It's kind of, you can kind of have that same thing, but it'd be principled at the same time. That's kind of what we're shooting for with the liberty movement.
Right.
I mean, you can obviously know, I mean, you listen to almost damn near every like podcast you listen to that's liberty related, they'll probably accidentally say the liberty movement at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, there you go. Like, there's your marketing.
Yeah.
You already got people doing it for you, which is kind of what BLM is doing. And that's kind of what we're shooting for. Cause we just think our basic idea is like, you don't even need to be political. Like if we can just get people, for one, organized, even if it's just social groups, even if that's all it becomes, you know, even if we can get people like together, you know, especially like we have a chapter concept that we've been trying to work on and build up. So that way we have people, it's localized. But even if you can just get people to just group up, whether you believe in voting, whether you don't, whatever. I mean, in the day, as long as you're vaguely liberty minded and we can get you to start, you know, moving in that way, we think that'll be a net good. You know, I mean, whatever the politics, if anything, we think that's, especially for me being an agorist, I just think politics is divisive, and it's just something like even among libertarians, because like especially among libertarians, in my opinion, because you look at like Republicans and they usually vote for the R. You look at Democrats, they vote the D, and libertarians can either don't vote, they'll vote R, they'll vote D, they'll vote for the L. You know, they're all over the place. Like, you know.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've kind of been noticing in the kind of the liberty movement at large, I guess, is we're seeing like segments building out. We're seeing the right libertarians, the Hoppians and stuff, who this is not a shot at Hans Hermann Hoppe. I
love Hoppe and I love Hoppians.
I consider Hoppe, you know, sort of the standard bearer for libertarianism in theory. Konkin, I guess, more would be in practice. But in any case, a lot of the Hoppians, or the people who would consider themselves Hoppians, have gone into this kind of weird, really like almost carceral, just let's kill people on the spot and not even joking about helicopters sort of mentality. A lot of them have. And they're the ones who, you know, are just rah about borders and that sort of thing. And, you know, I mean, they have a point. The bordertarians do, but on the other hand, I think I'm seeing another split among kind of right libertarians toward agorism, which I'm glad to see, because I was kind of getting worried there. Between the 2016 campaigns, where people were kind of falling in the Trump camp, and now 2020, the COVID crisis, where, oh my God, all of a sudden we're all agorists. Yeah. Have you noticed the same thing? What do you kind of think of the current state of the liberty movement overall?
I was really at the begin, for me personally, at the beginning of all this COVID stuff, I'm not gonna lie, I swallowed the black pill hard. I got super ready. I mean, I was ready for it to go Mad Max. I mean, I don't necessarily think it was actually going to go Mad Max, but I was ready to go. I'm still ready to go, but like now it's like I'm ready to go, but yet I'm white pilled, if that makes sense. Yep. So like I'm still in this, like, if it happens, it happens. Now I'm kind of like prepared, but also at the same time, even in the larger side of things, like the liberty movement, I have been noticing there's been more of a move towards that. So now it's like this, like the whole agorism revolution type thing, which the concept Konkin went into, where it's like at some point the revolution happened. I'm not saying that's now, but it's kind of like I'm seeing it almost like form now in a sense, where I'm seeing more movement. Like I said, like even the liberty movement itself kind of like grew so quick. Like I think we're still only a couple months old. And then we got, then like, for example, John Bush's freedom cells, which have been, I guess throughout all of this, have just been blowing up. Yeah. And then just prepping in general, just like those basic concepts. People are just more like now, like being more localized, more wanting to be independent. And I know I really have, especially through the group, have like the white pill has come through. I mean, the black pill kind of like served me in a sense of where it was like the black pill is what got me ready and got me being like, shit, I got to get it together. Yeah. And now that I'm like, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm like a master prepper. I'm not, it's not like I like, you know, the world ends right now and me and my family will like be able to live for like, you know, forever, but I got a game plan and I know people and I've met people. And like I'm more hopeful for the future, because I was freaked out before, because when it first started I felt like I was alone, and like I had to get a handful of my homies and be like ready to go. And like now it's like it's not just a handful of homies, it's a whole nationwide thing, you know. So
that's
if that makes sense.
I think I might have that's one of the things. I think I might have named this thing a little too early. You know, with Jack Spirko, he's always been saying get the hell out of the cities, but now everybody's saying it. So Urban Agorist might turn into Country Agorist here pretty soon.
Do it.
So, we all know one of the easiest ways to start gaining self-sufficiency is to grow our own food. Whether you're an urban agorist living in the city or an urban agorist at heart living on your homestead out in the country, you need seeds. Unique heirloom seeds are becoming endangered. 90% fewer varieties of seeds are planted today than just 2 generations ago, and just a handful of large corporations control the majority of our seeds. Seeds are disappearing all the time, and they're being replaced by cookie-cutter varieties that are bred for profit, not for flavor, robustness, yield, and certainly not the unique needs of your garden. Whether or not you're already gardening or saving seeds, I invite you to join me at the online Global Seed Summit from November 17th through the 20th to revolutionize your understanding of seeds and the role they play in your and our collective future. To learn more about the Global Seed Summit, head to urbanagorist.com/summit. When you sign up for the Global Seed Summit, you will connect with a global community of people who are committed to a healthier future. Now more than ever, people are beginning to realize the importance of taking control of their own food-secure future. Take control yourself at the Global Seed Summit. Head to urbanagorist.com/summit to sign up today, and I'll see you there. Talk about the chapters thing. How does Liberty Movement chapters work with or work against or compete with or whatever John Bush's freedom cells? I was going to ask you about that, and you brought it up. So,
yeah. I mean, I've kind of from the beginning. I don't remember if when we started, when we started the chapter concepts, if I had already heard about John Bush's freedom cells or not. I can't remember. So, I mean, either way, I kind of don't care because I don't really give a shit about IP. Yeah. So, I mean, not saying it would be an IP thing. So I'm not like ashamed of if I copied or not. I just genuinely can't remember if I did. But it is very similar. But I also think there are some differences, because for one, like his is like more on like a site, and like to be honest, I've only kind of perused his a little bit, and I am in some of his groups, and I get a different feel. So it's like, and the other thing too is even if we were basically the same exact thing, it's kind of like a market effect, essentially, is what I see. Yeah. And I don't see him. It's not like I see him as competition. I know for a fact he doesn't see us as competition.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, he's way bigger. But
he's in the Liberty Movement group too. Like, yeah, I mean, exactly. You know, he's in there and he's active in there too. It's not just he's there. You know.
Yeah. I mean, the way I see it is like even if we did have like a very similar, but I think it's very like holistic in a sense, where we kind of like, I feel like ours would be more well suited towards like being socially oriented and like maybe, you know what I mean, like a more bigger tent, whereas his is like gonna be more serious, more real world. But I think those both have their applications. I mean, don't get me wrong, things change and it could completely take on a different mind of its own as time goes on. But I think they very much work off of each other. And I also think that like it's the kind of same idea as having another competitor. It helps each other out, because on top of that, like we have people who are in the freedom cells who are in the Liberty Movement and vice versa. So it's like, you know, because I mean, a lot of those people want to be on social media and, you know, just kind of shoot the shit and look at memes and stuff like that. Because I mean, we kind of have that too in the main group. I mean, we are trying, and it's the kind of idea I was talking about before with like Edward Bernays propaganda, where it's like we're kind of like doing like marketing in a sense. Like it's fun, it's hip, it's whatever. But at the same time, we're also kind of like trying to drop like, hey, why don't you guys go check out the chapters? Or why don't you do this? Like we've even tried developing interest-based chapters. Like we have a film chapter. I mean, those haven't picked up as much, but like I said, we're still very, very young. Like we've already like kind of created like network effects of like there's already been like a guy named Michael. I'm not gonna say his last name because I'm not sure if he would want me to or not. I mean, he probably wouldn't care, but he's already, you know, got the beginnings of a documentary, because we kind of like essentially have a network of liberty-minded people is kind of like what we're doing. Because like I said, we've created a network. Like we have the chapters all over the place. We have We even have, like, I don't usually talk about it too much, but we even have a group called the Illuminati of Liberty, which is actually funny because it was a John Bush thing he said in like the first Unloose the Goose episode. And that's kind of where the chapter, the heads of chapters, like state chapters are at. Not heads, they're the organizers.
Yeah.
But like they're like the ones who kind of run those groups. That's where just for those, and then kind of like more like prominent content creators. Because like, so we have like, so we're kind of like essentially trying to set up an infrastructure of a network. And it's kind of served us well in some ways. Like I said, it's still very new, but like I said, just for example, the documentary, like he was, Michael was able to find like another documentary guy, and on top of that, he brought up like he brought up how like this is great because like now we're setting up the chapters. Mm-hmm. It's like say he wanted to interview somebody in Florida, because like I'm in Florida, and we have a Florida chapter. It's like I think it's the third biggest chapter. It's the second biggest stateside or USA chapter, because our biggest chapter is actually England. They're like 350 strong. Because it's kind of weird. It seems like the places that are most oppressed are the ones that are doing the best. Well, I guess it doesn't hold true because you look at Florida and we're the second biggest. But anyways, it's just crazy how big England's was. They're like 350 people in that chapter. But yeah, anyways, point being, like, if say there was somebody in Florida, and because he's in Michigan, and, you know, instead of like having to travel all the way to Florida to interview somebody, he can just be like, hey, Jose or so-and-so, or we just like hit up the chapter and be like, hey, is there anyone who has, you know, any sort of filmmaking experience? Here's a list of questions. Can you ask this person we're trying to interview, and just video it? That's all you got to do. You know,
that's pretty fantastic.
Yeah. Like, I mean, we're kind of creating workarounds and new, smarter ways to do things. And like we're trying to find ways to be able to utilize this network in whatever way possible to promote these ideas.
It's almost like
COVID documentary.
It's almost like decentralization makes things more efficient.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, we are up against time right now. So, you know what? I had one more question, if that's all right.
Oh, that's fine. I can go as long as you want. I don't really have anything to do.
Okay.
I mean, it's whatever you want to do. So.
All right. So what about when the inevitable happens and Facebook starts cracking down on libertarians? Do y'all have a backup plan? Do you have Discords or Telegrams or anything else set up?
Well, that's kind of part of the beauty of the decentralized aspect of this, because it is kind of like that's kind of what we're shooting for with the chapters. It's kind of like very multifaceted, because like, for example, like one thing we've had a lot of these talks behind the scenes. I feel like I keep like mentioning like we or like I almost am talking like you know what we're talking about. I'm remembering conversations we've had, because we have basically, me and the admins are basically almost have a constant group chat going about different ideas, and like we have talked about this plenty. And like one thing we've brought up before is like the decentralized nature to an extent kind of reduces our numbers, and it also makes us harder to attack. So from a Zuck perspective, it's like if you have like we're the Liberty Movement, but in a sense we're actually like, I don't know how many actual chapters off the top of my head, but it's well over 20. It's a network of groups. So like if Zuck ever did attack us, you know, come after us or whatever, you know, maybe what's he gonna do? Maybe take down the main group? I mean, he'll probably forget about the chapters, and it kind of makes it easier to rebuild the infrastructure. I mean, on top of that, like the decentralized nature of it allows it so. Like I never brought up that we are trying to do sub-chapters. So like we've got 2 places of sub-chapters, which essentially like the chapters would be like state level, and then you do sub-chapters like once your chapter is large enough to break off, and then you do smaller ones. Like we have one in Oregon who they have a Washington County sub-chapter, and here in Florida, it's actually the Tampa sub-chapter, which I'm in, and like we've already had a meeting, and we're like planning on having other ones. Like if you can get these together and you start meeting, it's like, who cares about Zuck? Who cares about that? Because it's like this is somebody you know. Like even if it all falls apart, you've made real world connections. We had so. And then even the decentralized nature of that is each one of these groups are kind of doing their own thing. Like we don't really have control. We're trying to set a culture here of like what we're trying to do. Like at the end of the day, we can never force anybody. If one of these groups break off and become this like crazy splinter group that's like stumping for some candidate or whatever, I mean, most we can do is be like, well, that's not really what we're about. And, you know, we can't do anything about it because it's their group. But like the decentralized nature of it allows them to, like I said, we're saying culture where it's like we frown on it. So we're hoping they don't. But also the decentralized nature of it allows them to kind of do what they want. Like I know there's multiple groups that already have Discords and stuff like that. We've also had talks about like setting up an email list. That's part of why I've got this YouTube channel where we're trying to branch out as much as possible, but we only have like 5 admins, so it's like we can only do so much, and we have lives too. So like I'm married. I have 2 kids. You know, they're older. I mean, I have a full-time job. My wife has a part-time. We have our own side, you know, very agorist friendly business, and like, you know, like, yeah, like I have a lot going on. So, like
if let's say like I've got a group in the Twin Cities here, and I know there's one in the DFW Metroplex. What if those groups wanted to sort of become Liberty Movement chapters rather than just disjointed random libertarian groups? Is there like a pledge they have to take, draw blood, anything like that? Or do they just change the name of their Facebook group?
I mean, we've had these talks. We had for one, our largest USA one is Oregon. And that's exactly how it started. I mean, I talked to a guy, Charles, not going to give his last name again, and he was head of a voluntarist group there, which obviously is very in line with what we're about, you know, voluntarists. And his group was huge, and we had talked to him, and I guess there were other admins of the group, and I was like, it's up to you. It's whatever you guys want to do. I kind of gave him a pitch, and I was like, it's whatever you want. I mean, I told him, like, and we want to the most degree possible to try to, like, create a solid brand. So it's like if we're trying to make it consistent, to make it user friendly for people jumping in, because like say for example, like yours is probably named like Twin Cities something or other, right?
Yeah.
So like if you just jumped in and didn't change your name, it just might be confusing. Like don't get me wrong, if it's a large enough group and they're being just that stubborn about it, I might be like, okay, but just maybe put something in your description to try to make it like, I don't know, make it, you know, user friendly. Yeah. I mean, like with his, he ended up making a new group and then just kind of pulling people from that old group. And the admins there were cool that they just didn't want to change the name. I don't know. People get like really weird about that. And we've had other talks at other places, but we're completely fine with it. I mean, we would just hope that they would, I mean, if they're in line with us, I mean, like with our general vision, that's cool. I mean, we're just like trying to create a network, like say something like that, we would be totally fine with if they wanted to come over. Like that sounds like, if anything, they would fall in well with like a subchapter. So like, you know, I know you're in Minnesota. There's already a Minnesota chapter. Mm-hmm. So like that sounds like you could just easily just make that a subchapter and then just kind of like with that group, then, you know, come in and be like, hey guys, we're now a subchapter. This really doesn't mean anything aside from now we're kind of part of a larger network. Yeah. You know, I mean, doesn't really mean anything aside from, you know, hey, maybe go join this group and we can kind of be more, you know, networkized or whatever, networked. Yeah. And, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, though, it's kind of like whatever people want to do. It's all voluntary, and so whatever you want to do, I mean, that would be the ideal. I mean, ideally, they would change their name to, you know, the Liberty Movement - Twin City subchapter or something like that, you know. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I mean, we're not going to turn away people that fall in line with the vision. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, we're not trying to like take over control. I know a lot of people get like, we're trying to like take over control. Like, no, we're trying our best to unify, you know, the remnant essentially, you know? Yeah. Like, that's all it is really. And I think once you do that, you create a network effect of like being able to, I don't know, the sky's the limit. There's a million different things you can do when you like manage to create networks like this, you know? So like I said, like that documentary that came out from all this, like we never envisioned that. That just happened because as a network effect, you know? So.
Well, I think that getting together with like-minded individuals to better prosper in this world without resorting to political solutions to whatever obstacles stand in our way is probably something anybody can get on board with. So I really appreciate your time tonight, Jose. Is there anything else that you'd like to plug or tell the folks how they can join the Liberty Movement officially?
If you want to join, just go to Facebook, type in the Liberty Movement. There are other Liberty movements. I think we should be the top one. If you're confused, our picture is a picture of the world map, and then it's kind of got the background of the ANCAP flag. Generally, our colors are black, yellow, and gray because we're kind of like, we try to be ANCAP Agorist central, but that doesn't mean if you're a left libertarian, we're not gonna run you off as long as you aren't like saying, you know, we're gonna like property is theft and, you know, we should kill landowners or something, you know. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we draw the line. Is that, I mean, the property thing, I mean, I don't know, the whole political compass is kind of bosh, because I know a lot of people think of left libertarians and they immediately think of that, but then there's some that are just like, well, I don't know, gay marriage, so I'm a left libertarian. It's like, okay, whatever. Yeah, I know. So I don't know, it's almost kind of meaningless, but anyways, I got kind of sidetracked. We that's a picture, so you can be able to tell that's us. Join. There's only 2 questions to get in. It's what is taxation? I mean, if you can't answer that, I don't know what to tell you.
And everyone knows is the price we pay for a civilized society.
Exactly.
Right? Okay. So there we go. That's number 1.
Yeah. And then the number 2 question is, this is not a political place, and this is not the place. Essentially, I don't remember exactly how it's worded, but essentially the question is along the lines of, we're not political here. So, we'll remove posts that are political, stuff like that. We feel like we're fair overlords. I was totally joking, but so it's not political, and that's it. If you're cool with that, if you know that taxation is theft, and you're cool with not being a political space, we're cool. You're in, and then from there, just have fun. If you just want to hang out in the main group and just shoot the shit, look at memes. I feel like I share some pretty fire memes. If you just want to do that, if you want to be more serious, if you want to get involved in some more interest-based ones, I usually try to regularly put up posts to give you options to be able to go to it. You can always go to the announcements too and look through there. I got my YouTube channel now, so I've only done an intro video so far, and I also have a buddy who just did his first video, which was on a gun cleaning thing. He's still very beginnings. That's another thing with the YouTube channel. I never got to bring that up. That's one thing we are shooting to do. I'm not trying to do a YouTube channel all by myself. Essentially, it's kind of it's almost like we're kind of stealing ideas here and there from different people who are doing things right. So we have the way I see the YouTube channel is very Lines of Liberty thing. It's what I'm shooting for.
Oh yeah.
Where it's
multiple hosts or whatever.
Yeah, where it's different shows. We have the Liberty Movement channel, but it's then within that we have multiple stuff. I would like my buddy that did the gun thing. I mean, he maybe start doing gun stuff. If there's some dude who wants to start doing a regular thing on the sports stuff of the week, the sports ball, go at it. As long as you aren't being political,
Yeah.
Because that's another part of the thing too, is we're trying to beat the left at its own game in a sense, where we would like to be able to help people, even if you're just using it as a springboard for future stuff. If you want to say you want to be do sports stuff, if you want to use this to start off your YouTube career and you just want to leave later, that's cool too. It's just we're trying to promote people who are doing that kind of stuff as much as possible. So that's kind of give them a chance to use a brand,
That's one thing I've noticed in the group is that there's a lot of self-promotion, and it's not out of place.
No.
People are pimping their podcasts. That's another thing in the Liberty Movement. Everybody's starting a damn podcast. I feel like I'm on the bandwagon right now, which is not where I usually sit, but whatever. It's great though, because I've discovered so much new stuff there, and interacting with some of the bigger names, because it's a really active group. Pete Quinones is in there, and he just kind of shoots the shit. Sal Mayweather. There's a ton of people in there who are constantly. It seems like it's their main group. So anyway, Jose, I appreciate your time. Y'all come join the Liberty Movement on Facebook. I will put a link in the show notes. That's going to be at urbanagorist.com/2. Because this is
one more thing.
Yeah, one more thing. Throw it in.
We got an email. We're sort of official. We have a Liberty Movement email. I check it fairly regularly. It's the Liberty Movement Global @gmail.com. So I know that's a mouthful, but I was kind of surprised even that was available.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the is in there. The Liberty Movement Global @gmail.com. So if for any reason you need an email, you want to ask us any questions, or you have any issues, you're welcome to email. I feel like it's kind of archaic. Not many people do that anymore, but most people probably just use Facebook. But
it's pretty reliable though.
Yeah. All right. But this has been fun. I was glad to talk to you. I hope to see big things,
Thanks a lot, Jose.
All right. You have a good one. See ya.
You too. Thanks again to Jose for joining me for this episode, and thank you for tuning in again. Once again, you can find today's show notes, including links to join the Liberty Movement, at urbanagorist.com/2. Be sure to subscribe to the Urban Agorist podcast on your favorite app and leave a review, because that really helps the show. I will see you on the next episode, and until then, live free.
This is the way